92.7 Chattanooga Radio. Nooga Radio 92.7 and 95.3 FM HD for good evening to you. It is Sports Talk with Sam Jordan. We're glad to be with you wherever you may be, whether it's in the Chattanooga area or anywhere around the world. We are live on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. And, of course, you can always text in your comments on Facebook. And you can also call us up at 423-800-8949. Big event coming up here during the week between Christmas and New Year's, and that is a PBI baseball camp that's going to be going on. And with me, I have Coach Ashley Lawson from PBI. And Coach, tell us a little bit about the camp and what all it entails, and what will this camp do for players?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me and spending a little time with us. But just to give you a quick insight on what this camp is, we started this about 11 years ago. And a couple of my friends and myself got together, and we wanted to put together a camp that was done the right way. We had went around the country and done some different events and kind of saw how we didn't want to do things. And we thought, hey, let's give the kids of East Tennessee an opportunity to learn the right way and learn the right way to do things. First year we did it, we had 36 kids show up, and we were ecstatic. There was like 4 of us that did it, and we were like, oh, this was awesome. The kids listened, and we had a good time. The next year we actually switched venues, and it grew to 60 players. We're like, we may be onto something here. You know, let's see what this is about. And as it grew, we needed bigger venues. We didn't really advertise much. I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever been on the radio publicizing it. But last year at Baylor, we had almost 250 kids come through there in 2 days. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give kids an opportunity to showcase themselves the right way while they're learning baseball. Now, we've had some really, really talented players come through here over the last 11 years. I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we gave out almost $4 million out of this camp. But to say that, we've also had kids who are middle school players who are trying to make their middle school team, and they're treated the same way. What we want to do is instruct the kids as well as give them an opportunity to take swings and take ground balls. When you go to a traditional, quote, showcase, which is advertised all over America, there's a million of them. Most of the times the kids will take 5 ground balls, they'll take 10 swings, they'll run the 60, and they'll play 2 innings of baseball. Well, I don't know any guy in America that can truly evaluate someone based off of those accreditations. I just don't know how you could do it. So we wanted to set it aside and go, hey, let's give these kids a true test to see who they really are. Because anybody can put on a mask for 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. You spend a whole day with a kid, you figure out who he is. Now, there's been some kids, some high-profile kids that come through, and, you're like, well, maybe it's not what he needs to be doing. And there's been some other kids who nobody knew about. We're like, wait a minute, this kid needs to be on a draft board, or we need to find this guy at school. So our ultimate goal is to find players. Make no mistake about it, that's what we do for a living. And I bring in the scouting director with the Atlanta Braves, the assistant scouting director with the Oakland A's, and other professional people as well as college guys. But our ultimate goal is to find players and to help players. So we want to make sure that when we do find players, we don't keep it to ourselves. We want to share it with other people, because inevitably that's what we're doing this for. We're doing it for the kids. So when we find that information, we find out players that can play, we send it out to, I think I've got a list of 100 schools and scouts now that I send the information to, trying to help these kids attain their ultimate goal, which is to move on to the next level. And I think no matter what your goal is as a player, whether it's to make the middle school team, make the high school team, start on the high school team, or obtain a scholarship, this camp fits that void for you. It gives you an opportunity to truly obtain the goals you want. We bring in a select group of people that are known as some of the best teachers on the East Coast, and this is a unique venue to be able to do this in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and to be able to bring these guys here.
Now, is it a drawback because you're having the camp in December? I mean, compared to where I used to live at in the Northeast, you wouldn't be able to do that because usually there'd be snow on the ground. In the holidays, kids are away, for the holidays and stuff. But it's down here. I mean, right now, even though we've been in the 40s and the 50s lately, I mean, it's still pretty ideal. You don't have to worry about snow on the field or anything like that. But has that been a deterrent?
No, the one thing that we've done a good job of is every time we've looked for a venue, we've made sure I go in and I look and I go, what if it rains for 2 days straight? And no, seriously. Or if it snows, because we've had snow before. And in reality, Baylor is the perfect fit. I think they've got 5 full basketball courts over there that they can raise and lower the dividers between. They've got a phenomenal indoor facility, but the beauty of it is it can rain all the way up until the 27th. And if it stops raining, we can go outside. They've got like 2 or 3 turf fields over there that we can use. So the weather hasn't really affected us, and I don't see it affecting us. And there is a cap, and I tell people all the time, like, I don't know when it'll sell out, but it could sell out tomorrow or it could sell out on the 20th, but it'll eventually sell out because I make sure not to get over a certain number to what we can handle indoors. Now, when we go outside, we could hold 500 players if we wanted to.
Right.
You can't plan for that, So, but the beauty of when we do this is, here's the deal. The kids are sitting at home. Sometimes they get cooped up. They need stuff to do. The parents probably need to get them out of their hair a little bit. But the reality is this is a huge springboard into the spring. This can give you something. You have enough time to work on what you're taught over the next month before you actually start practice, and you could actually make some adjustments and make some headway going into the spring.
All right. Now, what are some of the caliber of instructors that this camp will be able to have to help these young men?
Well, I would tell you probably 2 of the biggest draws we have are Danny Clark, who is the pitching coordinator with the Texas Rangers. He literally sits down with these guys, goes through a whole classroom session with the pitchers. And really the pitching is like its own little camp. We kind of break away and they go do their own thing, and we get back together for lunch, and then they break away again and we see them at the end of the day. But he takes these guys in the classroom. He does a lot of the stuff they do in spring training. Now, mind you, this guy, every pitcher in the Texas Rangers organization is under this guy's tutelage. The coaches are under his tutelage. So they're getting a crash course in what it's like to be in professional baseball within a 2-hour span in the morning. So he'll spend all that time with them, and then he takes them outside. And the guy that I put with him is Michael Holmes, the assistant scouting director with the Oakland Athletics. And Michael is known as one of the premier mechanics guys in the country. I think a couple years ago when Sonny Gray was coming out, there was some dispute on whether to take Sonny Gray. Was he going to break down? Was he not? And I remember distinctly Michael Holmes' conversation. And the reason the Oakland A's took him was because Michael Holmes signed off on him. Hey, this is a guy, I understand he's not the biggest guy in America, but this is what he does right. This is why it's going to work, and this is why he's not going to break down. And I think Sonny's had a pretty good career up to that point. Tom Griffin is a guy we bring in. He's the head coach at Carson Newman. He does our catching. He is hands down, this guy might be one of the premier catching guys in the country. We're just fortunate that he lives in East Tennessee. He's been offered several jobs in professional baseball, opportunities to move. He loves where he's at. He loves being the head coach at Carson Newman. This guy not only is a phenomenal instructor, he's really, in my opinion, he's a phenomenal human being. And he really, truly, you want to see somebody take some serious, show some serious passion for developing kids. Watch this guy work for a day. It's amazing. Butch Chapman we bring in to kind of lead up our hitting. And honestly, we bring kind of a star-studded staff. I mean, I've got an infield coordinator that I fly out of Florida that is a phenomenal infield guy. He's been offered several infield positions throughout professional baseball. Billy Berry, who was the former coach at Baylor, now at Tennessee Wesleyan, that's the National Coach of the Year. Almost every coach that we bring in has won a World Series, been involved in a World Series at whether it be professional level, college level. We have some guys who have won national championships. So, I mean, it's really, when I tell you it's a hand-picked staff, what these guys are teaching. And in 11 years, I think our biggest, for me, the biggest pat on the back is we haven't had one complaint. Parents walk out there going, I can't believe you're only charging this for this amount of talent. Well, we do have expenses, and there's expenses to run stuff like this, but we've got jobs. We're trying to help kids, and that's why I'm really picky with who I bring to work.
How much talent do you think that South Central Tennessee here in the Chattanooga area we have here on our hands that could possibly make it up to the big league someday?
Well, I have to kind of walk on eggshells
right.
with this one, but I would tell you this: Southeast Tennessee in itself, and Tennessee altogether, but Southeast Tennessee, right in that Chattanooga, Ringgold area, it's really, really talented. I mean, what Brandon Turner's done with exposure baseball has been extremely good for the state of baseball in East Tennessee. He's kind of taken over from Knoxville up to the bottom part of Nashville and dipped into Alabama and Georgia a little bit as well. But there's some really talented kids. I mean, you got kids from Baylor that are committed to SEC schools. I mean, Teddy Lepsio's going to Army. That's a Division I program. There's a kid from Ray County going to Kentucky. I mean, there's some really good players around this area. You got the Wilcox kid that is signed at Georgia. I mean, he's a great player, a really good arm. When you start talking about the big leagues, actually making it to the big leagues, a lot of things have to fall in place for that to work.
Right.
When kids are drafted, they're not drafted to go play in the big leagues. They're drafted to hopefully play in the big leagues. And there's a lot of steps you have to take before you get there. And mind you, it's like I tell kids all the time, you're not competing with the guy that's on your high school team. You're competing with the guy that's in California, the guy that's in Florida, the guy that's in Texas, the ones that have better weather. Or you're competing with that Dominican kid or the Puerto Rican kid down there that goes out every day and takes ground balls on rocks. So
I didn't mean to hang you out to dry with that question, but I mean, how is the talent level for this area, compared to others that you've seen? Do you feel like that we're on our way up? Are we there? Or do we have a long ways to go to really develop a lot of good talent?
No, I think there's some really good players. I think Tennessee in itself, just the demographics of what's going on, throughout the draft, I bet if you went back 10 or 15 years ago, Tennessee wasn't even on the map with the draft.
Right.
And I have to kind of speak in order of Tennessee as opposed to like Southeast Tennessee. But, now Tennessee's one of the top 5 states of players being drafted out of it. And yes, there's players coming out of Southeast, coming out of Chattanooga getting drafted. Toddy Daisy had a kid drafted a couple years ago who actually attended our camp. And, there's every year there's kids that are drafted or playing at major colleges out of that area. So I don't think there's any holdback as far as the amount of talent in that area. And to be honest with you, I think it's scouted and recruited really heavily, in my opinion. I think I will say this: there's what Brandon Turner has done is what Chattanooga needed. It needed somebody that would put the kids in front of the right people and put them in the right spots, and he's done a really good job of that. And that's helped a ton.
We're talking with Ashley Lawson, the director of the PBI camp that's going to be coming to Baylor High School, coming up on December 27th and 28th. Did I miss a date? I think that's both days, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what does an individual out there, what's the age criteria? What do they need to do in order to sign up for this camp?
Well, it's really simple. All you have to do is go to pbicamps.com and just pick the session you want, whether you want day 1 or day 2, or if you wanted to be a dual player. Basically, we take the kids ranging basically middle school to high school. So we have had some younger kids, but they're pretty advanced. Some 12-year-olds, but they're advanced. The beauty of this and the way it's done is it's all individualized. So you're not matching a 13-year-old up with an 18-year-old. It's very, very individualized. Each kid gets a unique amount of attention. And, I just think it gives every kid in that age group an opportunity to be successful and learn. And I will tell you this too, one huge thing that I think we're doing, and we did last year, that we're doing again this year, we have a breakout session for the parents where we'll sit down and talk with them about recruiting and what's going to go on in the next 3 or 4 years, because the recruiting game in baseball has changed so much over the last, 7 or 8 years. Kids are committing at 9th grade now, and, parents are getting bombarded left and right with attending this, and should my son go to play on this travel team, or should he be, at this event? And we try to help them as far as, this is how you market yourself. This is what you need to stay away from. This is what you need to attend. So, and that for me is a it's a freebie. It's a throw-in. We just started doing it last year, and parents loved it. I mean, we actually were going to do it for, 30 minutes. We ended up sitting in there for like an hour and a half, and just parents asking question after question after question. That for me made us realize that, hey, there's a real loss here. There's a real separation gap with what parents actually know and what they need to know.
In all reality, being a parent, I had a couple of my 4 older sons that had an opportunity to go D1, and they did, one with football and the other one with soccer. And I know that we were trying to find out all the various things with NCAA clearance, house issues, and everything that a student athlete needs to find out in order to move on to the next level. It's not like you're just applying to go to a college and hoping to get on the sports team or anything like that. And baseball is no different, and probably is a little bit more hairier with issues to deal with as well from a parent's perspective.
Yeah, I think again, the recruiting game it's just changed so much. And the one thing I would say, and if I could leave anything with the people listening, is that don't get caught up in I have to attend a D1 school, because there's a lot of really, really good, mid-major D1 schools, D2
right.
schools, D3 schools, NAIA schools, and even in this area. For me, as a parent, what I want to do is sit down and go, okay, what schools are recruiting my son? And that will kind of tell you where your son needs to be. If he's being recruited by D2 schools, then he's probably not going to attend Vanderbilt, which is a phenomenal school.
Right.
Because these coaches have an idea, and they run in packs, and they know where to go to find the players, and they know, hey, they're going to tell you without actually telling you where you need to be looking. So I think that's a huge market, is to go, because kids will write schools off. And the one thing I would say was, you need to always return phone calls. You need to always return emails. Don't ever close the door until it's time. Because I will tell you myself, I had to go to Division I, and I made that mistake, and I did it, and I hated it. And I ended up coming back and going to a smaller school at Tennessee Wesleyan, and it was the best thing that ever happened for me. And I will tell you this, there are so many kids that are drafted and go on to play from those smaller schools now, as opposed to what it used to be 20 years ago.
Right.
And for me, it's finding the right fit for yourself and finding the right fit for your son. If you can't pay $40,000 a year to go to school, then you probably shouldn't be looking at that school. You should probably look into something else. And I think that's where we can help, is kind of pointing these parents and these players in the right direction.
Now, I know one thing that I was looking at, you've got a lot of scouts that come to your camps that you put on all throughout the area. We're talking not just college, but also with minor league scouts. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have professional scouts. I guess the star guy, the star of the show would be Brian Bridges, the scouting director with the Atlanta Braves. Everybody in this area you talk to is a Atlanta Braves fan. So they always say, hey, don't hold it against me if I come to camp. I'm like, no, I'm fine with it. I grew up a Braves fan myself. The Mets just pay my bills.
Right.
So, but yeah, we have some scouts that come, and, the biggest thing is that we write evaluations on all the kids that are age eligible, and we will send this out, and we'll send it to the Major League Scouting Bureau, and they will get it out to all the teams. So, again, last year there was a left-handed kid at our camp that we really, really liked, and we sent it out, and then everybody followed him. And last spring, the kid was up to 97.
Wow.
That kid showed up, and really good-looking kid, an absolutely amazing kid as a person and family, but he was up to 97 this last spring. So obviously he got on everybody's radar, and, we already knew about him. We had already sent the information out, and, he will graduate this spring and should go in the draft pretty high, and he'll be back again this year.
Now, do you see more pitchers coming out, or catchers, or fielders? I mean, where does it seem to be the bulk of the talent coming from, out on the field?
As far as for camp?
Yeah.
Or just overall? Yeah, for camp. Well, it's funny, man. I've never closed off, say, hey, we can't take any more pitchers, or we can't take any more catchers, it really, somehow or another, it always seems to even itself out. The one thing we try to do is, I will shift some guys around, some local kids, shift them to day 2 as opposed to day 1, just to kind of even out the numbers. But
right.
We always, the pitchers will break off, and there'll be 30 of those guys maybe. Then we'll have, 60 or 70 position players, and it always seems to work out where like 30 of them or 40 have gone to do defense, and, the rest are in hitting. So we kind of break it up so that we're making sure that we don't have a group. We don't want a mass group of 100 kids hitting at the same time. That's not going to do the kids any good, and it's not going to do us any good. So we want to try to even it out as much as possible. But to be honest with you, it has really been even over the last few years. We've never had a situation where we're like, hey, we got 70 pitchers. What are we going to do? It's just never worked out like that. And I don't know why. There's no real rhyme or reason for it. It's just the way it is. I do know we get a lot of catchers. But for me, a lot of catchers is 25 or 30. So we may have 25 catchers one day, but we'll have, 10 corner infielders. So we kind of match those guys up. So, and I think really the catch and draw is Tom Griffin. And, if he has camps that he does in the summer, he'll have 70 or 80 catchers up there. So, I mean, this guy's literally, when I tell you he's one of the premium guys, this guy stood on the stage in front of 10,000 people at the National Convention and spoke. He's really good.
All right, we're with Ash Lawson from PBI Camps, and you're going to be having a camp coming up December 27th and 28th at the Baylor School. Ash, give us one more big blurb here talking about how people can sign up for the camp and all the particulars.
Yeah. The basics are pbicamps.com. Just pick your session. And then just fill out the registration form. You'll get a reply, and you'll be set to go. But I would say, here we're coming down to the last, 15 days before camp. This would be my suggestion. If you think you want to come, you need to register, because last year from this week on, we had 91 kids attempt to register. We can't hold that many kids this year. So if that happens again, we're going to have a waiting list, and we had one last year. So that would be kind of my suggestion, is if you think you want to bring your kid, and listen, here's the deal, and we tell people this all the time. If you truly want to become a better baseball player, you've got to put yourself in a position to become a better baseball player. Well, how do you do that? You put yourself around people who know the game inside and out, and that's what we put here in Chattanooga. And to me, I started this for the kids of East Tennessee. I didn't start it for the kids of Georgia or Florida or Chicago. I wanted the kids of East Tennessee to have an opportunity to go through something like this and have this in their backyard. So I would much rather sell this camp out with East Tennessee kids as opposed to Atlanta kids.
All right, Ash Lawson, who's with the New York Mets organization, is one of their scouts, and he's also the camp director for PBI Camps. It's coming to Chattanooga December 27th and 28th. Ash, stay on the line for just a moment. We'll be back with more Sports Talk with Sam Jordan coming up after the break here on Nooga Radio 92.7 and 95.3 FM HD4.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
An overflowing mass of people attended the latest Signal Mountain meeting on leaving the county schools, the last for the year. The December meeting of the Signal Mountain Town Council actually had too many attendees. Because of fire regulations, some had to be kicked out of the main meeting room. They spilled out into the lobby and some outside. Concerns of the residents are still the same as they always have been. What's going to happen if they decide to split from the Hamilton County school system? One of the main issues of contention was what will happen to special education students. These questions have yet to be answered. An eagle-eyed neighbor took a photo photo of a man she says was burglarizing her neighbor's home on December the 1st, and that led to the arrest of Mr. Brian Alex Stone Jr. Her photo showed a man carrying a flat-screen TV into a vehicle, the license plate clearly visible. Police used that info to track down and arrest their suspect. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
Cold weather out there through your nighttime. Overnight lows back into the mid-20s. Now for your Wednesday, after a frosty start, lots of sunshine, not as breezy. Should be a nice afternoon, back into the mid and upper 40s. For Thursday, continue dry with highs of around 50. Experience the wonder of Ruby Falls Christmas Underground on a magical journey to visit Santa. Discover Christmas cheer on this heartwarming adventure. For tickets and details, go to rubyfalls.com. And I'm Swarm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Cole.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Sonia with the Mountain Oaks Weddings, Events, and Tea Room in Ottawa, located in the former James County Courthouse. Go back in style when you're planning your next event. Mountain Oaks is a full-service wedding venue and catering facility. No fuss, no mess, no cleanup when you schedule your next special event with Mountain Oaks. Leave the planning and the work to the experts, but take all the credit for your wonderful event. Call me, Sonia, at Mountain Oaks today at 423-238-9333 and leave the work to us.
423-238-9333 or stop by our location on Church Street in Ottawa.
Pulse Centers of Chattanooga offers non-medical solutions to your body's problems using a state-of-the-art technology called pulsed electromagnetic fields, PEMF for short. We help fuel the body's natural healing response. If you're tired of taking harmful, addictive drugs that only dull your pain and cause awful side effects, the knowledgeable, friendly staff at Pulse Centers can help you end that cycle.
Call to schedule a free whole body assessment at 423-771-7755. That's 423-771-7755. An automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room, game, and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Sports Talk with Sam Jordan continuing here on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, 95.3 FM HD4. And it's time for another segment of Predators Pulse. And with us on the line is my youngest twin son, who but adds an extra digit on the end. Sam Jordan III. And Sam, tell us a little bit about the Preds, what's been going on since their last game late last week, and what they're heading into tonight.
All right. Well, tonight, this past Friday, they played the Vegas Golden Knights. Unfortunately, didn't get the result that I think the team would want. They lost 4-3 in a shootout. I must say the shootout was quite an impressive show by both goalies. Pekka Rinne and Malcolm Subban, the younger brother of PK Subban of the Nashville Predators, stood on their feet and on their heads, literally, during the shootout. And unfortunately, the bounce went towards the Vegas Golden Knights. The Preds will play tomorrow. They start a Canadian road trip up to Vancouver, followed by Edmonton, and Saturday at Calgary. This will be a decent stretch for the Predators. So it'll be interesting to see how many points they can pick up out of this road trip. You know, we'd like to pick up all 6, but we'll see how that will play out.
So it's a busy week for the Preds then.
Yeah, this will be one of their shorter road trips. They'll be on the road for the majority of this week. So it's a short week. They'll probably flying out from Nashville today or early tomorrow. Usually they don't fly the same day, but yeah, it'll be a decent road swing. You got Vancouver, who is always a very challenging opponent. And then you follow it up with Edmonton. Yes, they haven't had that great of a year, but you always got Connor McDavid and his posse of high offensive players that just haven't been able to get it together this year. And then they'll close it out with Calgary on Saturday night up in the Saddle Dome, which is always a tough place to play. If I like to rank any of the other Western Conference teams, I think Calgary's right up there with the building noise, with the fans, and hopefully with rumors going around that they might lose their team, the relocation, I really hope that they'll be able to keep it because it's one of the best environments in hockey.
Why would they lose it? I mean, is the fan base not there like it had been?
Just haven't had the numbers I believe that the league has been looking for. Again, there's a lot of cities, including Arizona, has been in talks about relocation if they can't get a new arena deal. Gary Bettman says that will not happen. They will be staying in the desert. The league's always looking to expand their fan base, so it'll be interesting to see what team comes out, I guess, on the losing end. You never want to see that because you always have passionate fans in every city. Just like, you have the Norrex up there in Quebec City that they've been begging for a hockey team to come back and just have missed out on the expansion teams. And actually, a little bit of NHL news, the league has opened for Seattle to submit an application for an expansion team. And on that side of it, Seattle has the ability and the plan in place for a brand new renovation of Key Arena, which used to be the home of the Supersonics, another great NBA team that was relocated to Oklahoma City ultimately. But, the league always has, it never shows its cards really to what they're going to do. It's always a interesting fold you'll see after the season, I'm sure, or maybe even during the latter part of the season, they will announce something with Seattle. I do think that it's a very legitimate opportunity to balance the league out. As a hockey fan, I think it'd be great to have hockey in Seattle. It's a thriving market that could very easily, I believe, sell out and kind of be in another Vegas situation. But the rumors are out there that if they were due to do another expansion draft, the rules would significantly change previous to what happened with Vegas. We'll see what happens with that.
Where do you feel could be potential relocation cities or expansion cities that you've heard of?
Quebec City is my favorite. I mean, I'm very passionate. I like the northern cities that have hockey history, ones that were kind of like the original hockey places. And in Canada, obviously, really brought hockey to the United States, which a lot of people, I'm sure, there's a nice special that the NHL Network every now and again called NHL 100. And it kind of just goes through the league history on how the league formed and whatnot. But Quebec City is one. There has been talks to add another team in the Southern California markets. You got the Kings, the Sharks. There's been rumors to Sacramento possibly being an option to get another team. I don't foresee any teams towards the eastern part of the United States getting a team, even though there's been talks rumored down the road with the NHL that they would potentially like to take a team over to Beijing and start into that southeast. We'll see what happens there. But my two solid candidates, like I said, would be Quebec City, and then I like Seattle, if they were to get one. But I do believe Seattle would be the last one to be at it for quite some time, just due to the fact that they will, even out the league where there'll be an even amount of teams for the Western Conference and for the Eastern Conference. So I think we'll see that down the road here. I think the rumors are that it would be in effect for the 2018-2019 season. But as Gary Bettman is all the time, he is holds his cards close to his chest. So we'll have to wait and see until there's an official announcement on that.
You know, the one place that I've been able to experience hockey that doesn't have an NHL team that is a fairly large size city is Cincinnati. The Gardens that they have there in Cincinnati, it's an old arena, but it is a gorgeous arena. And, you know, even though minor league hockey on the AHL level and even on the other semi-pro levels have actually done fairly well in attendance there, I'm surprised that Cincinnati hasn't ventured out into maybe getting an NHL franchise. Or do you think that there's any AHL, American Hockey League cities that are out there that would be a viable candidate for an expansion or a relocation city?
Great question. I mean, it definitely, the AHL, I think, is staying put where they're at because last year they did some shuffling of their divisions. They added quite a few of Western Conference AHL teams out here in Bakersfield. You got the Ontario, California Reign. Several California teams. There was, I think, Stockholm that they added out there. There were several teams, but I think they shuffled a lot of teams around. The Charlotte Checkers are now part of the Western Conference, or the Eastern Conference, excuse me. So we'll see what happens. I believe the AHL, though, will be staying put. The ECHL is always a game of finances, and then the other leagues that follow behind it, the U.S. National Hockey League, several other, the smaller semi-pro leagues. It's just financial things that a lot of cities more to it than just putting a hockey arena in place, bringing a team in, putting on the sweaters. It's I think the ECHL needs to be more stable before they would consider, I believe, any kind of expansion push. So it'll be interesting to see how that will play out. But the AHL, I believe, is staying put where they're at, and we'll see how that turns out over. I wouldn't see any moves this year or next year, but you never know. Again, it's kind of like a wild card situation. You never know what's going to happen until you're surprised one day. I mean, when the AHL made their announcements for the addition of teams and teams being taken away, one of my favorite teams to watch when I went to Wilkes-Barre-Scranton was the Norfolk Admirals, and they went from being a AHL team to an ECHL team.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that.
So yeah, it's an interesting market, and then just a kind of a Predators connection, but unfortunately it ended. Started throughout the summer, I believe it was, being the ECHL affiliate of sense, really not an affiliation, but an agreement in place, and it just didn't materialize. There was also change in leadership with the Admirals there in Norfolk, and unfortunately, the Predators pulled out of that agreement. I do believe in the best interest of the organization, and also, they want to have their people or where it's going to be a good fit, and that ultimately is with any sports franchise. Getting a good fit in the community and stuff, and also with the leadership team, is a very important one. So, as of right now, I believe the Norfolk Admirals are affiliateless for an NHL team. I do believe they get some players off of PTOs, player tryout agreements. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, on the Nashville Predators side, I mean, they got the the Milwaukee Admirals that are doing amazing. You got a lot of the future Predators that are down there, and I believe they currently sit in the second place in the Central Division there in the AHL. So,
all right, I got a question for you. I know the NHL made a big push here a number of years ago as far as trying to move into the South, and especially in the Southwest, like out in Phoenix, where the Coyotes are at. Do you think that Chattanooga, I mean, for a market the size that it is, around 600,000 people, at least that's the numbers in the Nielsen ratings demographics, do you think Chattanooga could ever see potentially, even if it's an ECHL or or maybe one of the NAHL, North American Hockey League teams, Chattanooga, do you think it would be supportive enough? And especially if, I know the junior Preds are already in Nashville and they're in the NAHL and everything, but as close as Chattanooga is, do you think that it could be a viable option possibly for a team, no matter what the league is?
Certainly. I mean, I would definitely support it. It all comes really down to economics for the city. Obviously, for the ultimate ownership group to come in there, it is quite an expense. I mean, you're a startup. I mean, if you're looking at statistics, like the New York Rangers just got a value estimation around, I want to say it was like $1.2 billion in value. So if you look at that, most teams that come into the league, Vegas paid, I believe it was around $500 million last year. So whereas here with Seattle would be asked to pay a $750 million deal. So you can kind of see where the valuations are in these markets. Seattle is obviously a little bit larger than Chattanooga.
Well, I'm not saying NHL level and maybe not even on the AHL level. I'm saying like with some of the, the lower levels like ECHL or even with the Federal Hockey League or even with the NAHL or USHL. Do you think that level of play, like tier 2 and tier 1 level type teams in U.S. hockey would be viable maybe for Chattanooga? I mean, because the players that are in the NA3HL and the NAHL, pay to play, it's not really a huge amount of a fee, but, the team's still able to, derive revenue from advertising revenues and sponsorships and that sort of thing. But, because of the proximity that we are to hockey with Nashville and Atlanta and Charlotte and other metropolitan areas, or even if they're a semi-metropolitan area that are nearby, do you think it could possibly work?
I definitely think so. I mean, obviously, if anybody in Chattanooga is interested in getting a team, I definitely think it'd be a viable option to bring an economic impact to the area. Also, hockey is growing in Tennessee. I mean, all due in large part to the Predators' success, and also being here as one of the professional sports franchises here in Tennessee. But yeah, I definitely think that Chattanooga is a viable candidate to have a team of some sort of semi-pro league or a professional level team. Probably ECHL at the highest, and but honestly, it would probably come down to what the city leaders and whatnot would consider as a viable option. Again, that's something that they would explore probably from a city standpoint to see if it would be something viable if there's a venue. There's so many variables that go into a franchise or into a team. You obviously want to see success and make it work for the citizens where there's no tax impact. Ultimately, it's something that Chattanooga I would definitely recommend to explore, because the more hockey you have in the area, kind of the more interest you build, and then also develops players that will go on to play professionally or in collegiate levels. A lot of people, if you have the ability to go travel to see a great college team, the University of Alabama at Huntsville, a great team. I got to see them out here in Arizona play Arizona State University, which actually is another Division I transition team. So, if you want to see some great college hockey, there's always that in the area. And I'm sure if there was an interest level, I'm sure the university eventually down the road could explore having a club hockey team or one that plays on the kind of the more club circuit. So, yeah, hockey is definitely viable in the whole entire state. And I would love to see Chattanooga get any kind of a semi-pro team or, just something to have hockey for people to watch. and extend off of what the Predators have built there in Tennessee.
All right, I'm going to switch gears on you here for a moment. Saw a picture on Facebook on Sunday of you and your brother-in-law at the Arizona-Tennessee game. Now, Justin was wearing his Arizona Cardinals jersey, and you had on your Titans jersey and everything. That had to be one whale of a game to watch. I mean, when I was looking at it on TV, you know, Tennessee and Arizona were pretty well even up, and then Mariota got hurt, and that kind of did the day in for the Titans, losing 12-7 to the Cardinals. But how great of a game was that?
I mean, obviously the outcome didn't go Tennessee's way. There's a lot of questions, I believe. Can Marcus Mariota withstand a grueling 16-game season year in and year out? You know, that's going to be a struggle. According to what was being told, is that the Titans allowed him to play on into the game due to, they believed it not to be any kind of long-term injury. But Marcus Mariota has been known to have kind of the injury bug attached to him in his 3 years in the league. But yes, the game was a great overall. It wasn't fun to watch your team lose, but you know, it definitely was a great atmosphere. Always is there at the University of Phoenix Stadium. Obviously a great time spending with my brother-in-law at his first NFL game. So for him to get to see a live game and kind of see one of the greats, a fact that happened during the game, Larry Fitzgerald passed Randy Moss on the all-time career receiving yards list. So a little history there. Larry, every game that I've ever seen him play, even on TV, the guy gives it all every single game. But back on the Tennessee front, you know, I definitely think that they will make the playoffs. The last game of the year obviously is going to mean something because the Jaguars and Titans played early in the season, Titans winning. They will hold the head-to-head if they were to come down to a tiebreaker. The Titans do own that. So, but these are going to be two tough games coming up against San Francisco. And then you got the Jaguars, and then they also play, I believe they go to
Houston,
Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, without seeing the schedule in front of me.
Okay.
But they do have San Francisco, which they're actually staying here in the desert for a couple days. They'll be here from Sunday till approximately, I heard, Saturday. So definitely looking forward to getting out to practice tomorrow over at ASU. So, you know, looking forward to that, being able to see some of my favorite players, especially like Delaney Walker, you know, see him ball out like he did, you know, carried the team in an aspect of, but the defense really is the real champ from this past week. And, you know, they really played a solid game and carried the team when the offense just wasn't clicking. Taylor Lewan, unfortunately, he had back spasms, and they felt it was best to take him out of the game. I believe he went out after the second quarter. So, yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. We got 3 games left. I do believe that the Titans are capable of winning all 3. But I think, you know, if we can win at least 2 of these next 3, that's a solid thing to build on. I do believe it places the Titans in a better situation if they take the 3rd seed, winning the division. But I think it's going to energize the fan base to see the Titans make it to the playoffs this year. And I think we'll see, you know, Tennessee just get behind the Titans like they did the Predators.
Yeah, I know your good friend. I know your good friend Shane really enjoyed last night's game with the Dolphins beating the Patriots, and the Patriots stuck in that 2nd position now with the Steelers in that number 1 position. Hey, Sam, it's great having you on with Preds Pulse, and we'll talk to you again. We want to get a few more little tidbits of information here before the end of the show, so we'll talk to you again. Thanks for calling in and getting us updated on the Preds. Sam Jordan with Preds Pulse. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. lot of high school basketball action on tap for tonight. Macaulay is on the road in Nashville to take on Father Ryan in boys basketball action. And also in action tonight, the CSTHEA Patriots. They are in action tonight. They are at Ray County over in Evansville. And that will be an interesting contest. East Ridge is hosting Tyner Academy over at East Ridge. Saudi Daisy is in action tonight, and they are going to be on the road, or no, at home with McMinn County out of Athens, Tennessee. And let's see here. Signal Mountain is at home with Hickson. So that will be a good contest, a good Hamilton County rivalry going on. And Notre Dame is at Chattanooga Christian tonight in high school basketball action. A little bit of football news, carousel of coaches pretty much done, but SMU's interim coach Jeff Traylor is going to be joining the former head coach Chad Morris at Arkansas. He's only been at the school since early 2017. The new head coach for SMU will be Sonny Dykes, and he'll take over immediately and coach SMU into the Frisco Bowl. Hey, he's back. Keon Rose, the clutch, is back. Coming up after the news, sports and other headlines of interest. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great night.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
An overflowing